So usually I just straight up talk spoilers right off the bat within my videos here. But this time I'm going to hold off talking spoilers for a bit, so don't worry. I'll share my spoiler-free thoughts on Disclosure Day before getting into spoilers, just so you're aware. I'll notify you when I am going to go into spoilers. That being said, my thoughts on Disclosure Day. So I saw Disclosure Day yesterday, and I'm a fan of it. I like this one a lot. Spielberg's been a bit, and I say he's been a bit iffy for me. In the 2010s, he was iffy for me. I didn't like most of what he was putting out last decade. This decade, so far, he's 3 for 3, if I'm being honest. I really liked West Side Story. I'm a big fan of The Fabelmans. That might be like up there for me in terms of favorite Spielberg films. And now with Disclosure Day, he's made an absolutely enthralling, big alien film that is almost like a complete must-see in the cinema, without being a big, giant spectacle film. It's quite in theory, it's a small film in terms of what we're witnessing, but the ramifications and the feelings that you get from the film are huge. And a lot of what I like from... There's a lot... the thought I had with Disclosure Day is that there's a lot of this film that I liked from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then more. So I think to start it off, I'm going to share kind of similar things I liked about Close Encounters of the Third Kind that rear their head back into Disclosure Day of my feelings towards it. And the first thing I'm going to discuss is the visuals. The cinematography in this film is fantastic. This film is shot by Janusz Kaminski, who has been Spielberg's DOP for most of his recent stuff. And this film, it just looks great. And again, similar to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, this film, it operates more on using backlighting, side lighting, top lighting as opposed to front-facing lighting. And in that, there's just a depth to every frame in this film. It's not just flat. There's actual layers to the film, which just really makes it stunning. And the color grade in it as well is gorgeous. Again, nothing flashy, but it just pops. And again, I feel like it's a ridiculous thing to say when I'm out here going it's amazing that this film looks like a film. But I mean, Spielberg's been doing it for a while. He knows how to make a good looking film. And that's the thing that I think about with this film as well. The way this film looks visually, again, there's nothing grand about the cinematography. There's a few gorgeous looking shots, I will say, which I'll touch on in a moment. But it's not like a Blade Runner 2049 or a Revenant or those kinds of films where it's, again, I love those. I love the look of those films. But how each shot of that film is almost designed to be how can we make this look gorgeous? There's no real shots in Disclosure Day that look gorgeous. But I don't know, man. But it's also just really well framed up. I think about there's a good few shots that utilize window reflections, which are just stunning. There's two in particular that come to mind when I think about that specific thing. There's moments of just the way characters are positioned in the frame, the way, there's blocking. There's some long takes where there's so much going on. There's a moment where Emily Blunt is walking through the newsroom bit, and there's so many characters and so many extras operating in such a slick movement, all happening in one shot, which would have had so much rehearsal and so much direction given, and for it to look effortless is just incredible. Again, that's almost what this film looks in terms of it from a visual point of view. It looks effortlessly great. And I don't mean that as an insult. It doesn't look like any work's got put into this. How this film comes across is it's such Spielberg's been doing this for so long. And he's been doing it at such a high level for so long that now it almost comes second nature to him and Janusz Kaminski visually. It goes like, yeah, we know what we need to do, so let's just do that. Like, that's how the film looks. It looks effortless, but I mean that in the best way possible from a compliment standpoint. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this film, that's another similar praise I had for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The reason why I compare the two is because I watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind about a week or so ago now, and it's a Spielberg alien film. That's the only reason. But also, like, I watched, like, it was a Ben Mankiewicz interview with Spielberg, and there's a lot of parallels that get drawn between Close Encounters and Disclosure Day. And just hang on. I'll talk about things that I think Disclosure Day does more than Close Encounters. But one thing that I do have to praise again is the score. John Williams, again, collaborating with Steven Spielberg in this film, doing a score. As he did, he did the Close Encounters of the Third Kind score, different scores. And again, it's another similar thing where I said about in my Close Encounters review, I mentioned how, like, there is no, like, and it's the same for Disclosure Day. It's not going to be a big iconic Williams Spielberg score. There's no, like, major themes like in Jaws or Indiana Jones, etc., etc. But the score really does complete this film. It really adds so much to it, whether it be intrigue or intensity or whimsy and wonder. The score, there's a lot in it where, yes, the visuals of the film is given it, the performance in the film is given all that, but the score really makes it. The score is the glue to this film, as is Williams' score been for many Spielberg films. But this one's another, like, it's another fantastic example of that. It's a score that really completes the film. I'm approaching the end of my spoiler-free stuff. Before I do go into spoiler stuff, other praises I have to say is I think the performances are great. It's a true ensemble where it's like there's no one true lead character. That the whole film is like you bounce between, like, Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt and then a bit of Colin Firth. And the film could, in theory, be in danger of then all of a sudden being like, all right, well, I like this character more than I like this character, so can we get back to so-and-so? But no one in this film is a time waster. Every character in this film has a point and a purpose and an intrigue. It's almost like I would compare it to the video game Detroit Become Human, where, like, for me personally, I love that game. And for me personally, I love Kara, Connor, and Marcus. And each one of those characters are all different kinds of people. So you get different flavors of storyline happening. And it's the same thing happening in Disclosure Day, where Josh O'Connor's character is different to Emily Blunt's character, who's also different to Colin Firth's character. So when we're just holding on a scene with each one of them, there's intrigue. And there's like, oh, okay, I'm interested in what's happening. And when eventually they all do come together, it makes it so, like, exciting. And again, this isn't a big, giant, action-packed film, although there is one specific scene that had me on the edge of my seat. But what makes the film exciting from that point of view is that we've gotten so invested in each one of these characters and their arc and their storyline and where Spielberg has taken us with them, that when they all come together, it's like, oh, now what's going to happen? It's just great stuff, man. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and considering the film is like over 2.5 hours long, this film moved at an incredible pace. Did not feel 2.5 hours long, like, seriously, like. And I say this, like, and Spielberg hasn't been perfect at this. There's been time, again, as I said, last decade, Spielberg really, I really wasn't, like, a fan or on board with Spielberg's stuff. But now, again, he's made films where I've been enthralled by them. Again, West Side Story, Fabelmans, and now Disclosure Day, and all three of them are all very different films, but all of them have this, like, sense of, like, just joy of life. like, I don't want to say like it's a purely like purely just happy film. There's a lot of drama and a lot of like intense moments in Disclosure Day. But what really makes this watchable, like properly, like I'm on board for Disclosure Day, is that yes, we are watching drama and conflict happen, but also at the same time we're like, there's a sense of intrigue and wonder with like the questions that's being asked, we want them answered from like a, now what can this mean, as opposed to like a, oh, we need to figure it out to solve the bad, from an audience point of view. Like, a filmmaker can present questions in a way of like, we need these answered to make us feel settled, whereas like Spielberg and in Disclosure Day gives us questions more so of like a, oh, now what next? Oh, now what? It's great. Disclosure Day is fantastic. I know it's not perfect. I feel like there's moments in it to where I feel like that's a little bit Deus Ex Machina. That's a little bit we need to resolve something, so let's just resolve it, as opposed to, okay, how are we going to get to it though? But I'll explain more in going forward, where I am now going to be talking about spoilers for Disclosure Day. So if you want to see Disclosure Day and you haven't seen it, leave. I'm now just going to talk spoilers about it, so you have now been warned. I didn't expect this film to immediately start. And that sounds wild, but what I mean by that is, like, one, the film opens with a POV wrestling sequence. I'm like, what the fuck is that Lance Archer? Like, I was so off guard. Also, I've never seen a wrestling event where like steam just fires up from the turnbuckles instantly. Whatever, it's cool visually. I don't care. But like, we immediately start right into it all with Josh O'Connor in a backpack. And that's what I love so much about this film, where like the film doesn't waste any time setting anything up. There's been a lot of space films. I'm always like, oh Jesus Christ, what are we good at? Like we almost need to spend the entire first act being like, now this is this, 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 now just fucking like lecturing us before anything fun happens. Whereas like with this, what happens is, we meet Josh O'Connor almost halfway through his story, and we are immediately introduced to Colin Firth, who's presented as the villain of the film, who's really great, like brilliantly menacing is Colin Firth, which I would like to see more of. This is a nice change for Colin Firth. But there's all this element, and then there's is it Eve Hewson, who plays Josh O'Connor's girlfriend? Then she's into it. And in this section, in Josh O'Connor's section, she plays the audience in the sense like, what is possibly happening? So that gives us a reason for Josh O'Connor to explain to us what the story is and everything. But for a good big chunk of the film, we're just in it. We're like in the moment where Josh O'Connor's got this thing where he's like, don't, and then everyone's freaking out. Colin Firth's like, just don't put any pressure on it. And we're like, what could this possibly be? And I loved it. I love that as like a form. Like the film is never like slow. Like the film never takes, like from a story and script point of view, it's like, we're in it and we'll catch you up. But you will definitely be caught up. You're never going to be left behind. But we don't have time to explain. We just need to go. And I think especially for a big film like this, that's so refreshing. And I think that's almost like what is being missing from big, like, blockbuster films for the last few years for me personally. It goes like, we need to spend like the first like half of the film explaining everything to you before we can be fun. And by the time they're being fun, I'm like, yeah, but you've lost me. Whereas like this, the film just starts out being exciting. So I'm immediately excited. And then I'm like, cool, let's go. And then I'll get caught up as we go along, which we do. It's fantastic. And the film, again, from a storyline point of view, I was always left intrigued. I'm like, okay, I know it's an alien film. I know it's about aliens. And I assume Josh O'Connor's got information. Again, he's going to be the whistleblower kind of thing. I'm like, okay, I could expect that. But as soon as, like, Emily Blunt is, like, speaking Russian and then doing all this, like, speaking all that, I'm like, what is possibly happening? But not from, like, a thing of, like, what, but from, like, a, what is happening? Like, I had no idea what was going on. Like, I didn't know if she was a secret alien or whatever. It turns out to be a very classic point of view thing where, like, her and Josh O'Connor are, like, kind of, were, like, briefly abducted and, you know, I could be missing bits. You know, I'm not going to say that I caught everything crystal clear. If you feel like you need to explain it to me, please do. But it's another classic point. But again, it's like for a long time, I'm like, what is possibly... But I understood the fact of like, okay, something freaky's going on with her, and the government's like, we need to get hold of her. Again, the film is a beautiful example of showing it and not telling until it needs to tell us. It's great. But from like a character point of view like that, and a storyline point of view, it's fascinating and entertaining. But here's what I want to talk about. This film has one of the most enthralling action set pieces I've ever seen in a film ever. Like, I was like on the legitimately like, I was going like, holy shit, like sat in the chair when Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor got caught up in the train. Holy shit! I thought it was going to be a quick, but no, the car got caught up in the train, and then the gun's getting fired, and there's another train coming, and they need to reach the ladder, but the train's not stable. It was just so, like, oh my god, that is like cinema. Like that was like top 10 scenes of this decade. Right? Am I overhyping that? It was amazing. Like from a pure, again, cinematography, performance, storyline implications, all wrapped up in just an action sequence. It was just phenomenal. And what I really appreciate about it was like right after that, when Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor have like, they've escaped from that sequence and now they're like in the train. Emily Blunt is freaking out, like she's shaking. And because so often you see like big things like that happen to normal people in films and they just almost somewhat brush it off. Whereas like that would be the most traumatic thing in their lives, but they're just kind of like, wow, what happened there? Whereas like this, it's like, it is like Emily Blunt is like shaking and freaking out and she's just like questioning everything in that moment. It's like, that's a very like, again, it adds that we go from being a really enthralling action set piece in a film to now like, okay, now we're like in a really grounded human moment without being eye rolling or without being like sympathy porn kind of thing. It's just like, okay, now this is how a person will react to being involved in something like that. It was fucking excellent. It was brilliant. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Disclosure Day. There's more. What am I thinking of? There's more things. I liked how like entertaining this was. Again, there's a lot of seriousness in this, but then there's like funny little moments, like with like Wyatt Russell, for example. Like he's a great character. Coleman Domingo is excellent in this film as well, and he has like a good nature about him. Oh, that's what I want to talk about. I think from as someone who is like, I am not a religious person. I classify myself as agnostic in that way, and I'm not necessarily. I'm not like anti-extraterrestrial in terms of believing, but nor do I have any strong feelings towards it. But also in my head, I'm like, from the point of view in terms of like, well, surely there's other life forms out there for like a big giant universe and galaxy. To think that we're the only ones here is a bit self-indulgent. So so I'm of that opinion, but I'm not like someone who's researched or is knowledgeable of any of this stuff. And I bring that up is like because I really found like the conversations in this film presents to be absolutely fascinating. Like, and I think it's a really cool inclusion that they include Eve Hewson's character, Josh O'Connor's girlfriend, who comes from a religious point of view. And the point of view when Josh O'Connor's like, this needs to be exposed, then his girlfriend's like, this could like throw in this, maybe we shouldn't, maybe we don't need to know this. This could throw in so many spanners in the works for everyone's mentality. And operating on the thought of like religion, like the relationship between extraterrestrial life form and religion and what that could mean from an existential point of view is really well done and not dumbed down, but also doesn't get too heady. It's so accessible of a like entry point for a conversation. And also I really enjoyed that like bit of where she calls the nun and she goes, but we're taught, but in the Bible, this Bible passage, it says like, again, I'm paraphrasing words like, we are God's greatest creation or whatever. And then the nun goes, on earth. And she said, what? It goes in that passage, it says, we are God's proudest creation on earth. Wow. What a statement to make. What a beautiful, like, inclusive statement to make from also in a way to not calling out religion for being false or fake, but saying like we can have everything. We can believe in this and this. We don't need to separate it. It's just such a really great way to go about it. And also like Colin Firth, his character's motivations he could simply just be like, I'm an evil government man. But there's like, or it's like, we can't keep this because we are the superior race. We need to make sure aliens aren't known of because they suck. No, if anything, Colin Firth is like, we as a human race, if everyone has that information, it's going to be a nightmare because then all of a sudden, like, I think the comparison he goes is like, we can't handle our own shit on Earth. Can you imagine if we find out that there's more stuff out there? We're not going to be, it's going to destroy us, like mentally and just like from a societal point of view, which is also another fascinating way to look at this. And the ending was stunning, man, is what I will say. Again, the point that I was making was like, it feels a little bit Deus Ex Machina, where they're like at like the news, like the broadcast room, and then Emily Blunt's going to give this speech of like expose it and everything like that, and then Colin Firth just goes, yeah, let it happen. In my head, I'm like, would he just let it happen? I don't know. But also, I don't care at that point in terms of nitpicking it. I'm like, yes, do it. Just fucking do it. And I don't know what about it. Like, as soon as they started showing, like, the footage, like the classified footage that now they're disclosing, I got really emotional. And I don't know why. Again, as I said, I'm not necessarily someone who's, like, really, truly, like, oh, I believe. I just know it's like, there surely is. And I haven't done any research on like any like Area 51 or Roswell or anything like that. It's all this, these are things I'm aware of that I don't invest my time into. But when we get like those film footage of like archive film footage of like aliens, like when they find alien bodies and they're like moving these things, like, and they're moving alien bodies, and they see them and there's footage of seeing them walking, or like getting rescued and moving, and with the music and even like the reactions, and there was just something about it that felt like, oh my god, this is beautiful, like this is so enthralling right now, like on a such like a, again, almost such on such like an intergalactic philosophical level of just witnessing this. And I know it's a film. I know I'm not actually seeing aliens, but oh my god, it's like just so like, just wow. Like, we went from having such a cinematic moment with like the action chase set piece car thing, and then also this is such like a beautiful cinematic moment of like no one's scared, no one's screaming, no one's like, oh my god, I can't believe it. They're just like, wow, I can't believe what we're watching. This is true. This is true. And there's just something so like that, like really like grip me in the feels from it. I know, it's stunning. And I think, and again, I mentioned this in the Close Encounters review, where it's like, I appreciate the fact of like not trying to redesign an alien. It's just a classic looking alien, you know, with a skinny body and a big head and big eyes. You know, it's just, you know, it just looks like an alien. It just looks like an alien. And I think that's what makes it more like, oh my god, wow. Because we know that sight, like from like cartoons or movies or something like that. And almost to present that look in a realistic fashion on like found footage just makes it even more like, oh my god, I never thought I would see this kind of a thing. Yeah, no, it was stunning. And then this is another complaint I have about the film. I felt the visual effects were a little bit ropey, guys. Which is a shame to say, especially for a Spielberg film. Again, the practical effects look great, and I'm not sure. Obviously, there was visual effects used for the found footage stuff, but I think, like what I was talking about with Close Encounters, the visual effects work a lot because of the quality. It's not a crisp image, so you can get away with something not looking as detailed. So, but surely there's also practical effects of when they're like moving like the bodies of the aliens. You know, they look like, you know, because they're just still bodies. Like, that looked amazing. So when I start seeing a CGI bird and a CGI fox and a CGI deer, that doesn't look great. I know, it's a little bit like, no, that's a bit of a shame. Oh, well, whatever. And, like, the alien at the very end, which was like, oh, my God, like, such a movie moment. But, again, just seeing it as a CGI thing didn't sweep me up as much. It was a little bit all right, but again, it's still impressive. It's not an awful effect. It's just noticeable that CGI to me. And there's part of me that would have wished that maybe they tried. Maybe Spielberg did try. Let's see what we can do as a practical alien, and it just didn't look as good. It didn't work. I don't know. That's my only complaint. The CGI just didn't look. It wasn't as impressive as I would have hoped. But luckily, the film doesn't rely too much on CGI, and the film is a lot more of a character piece, and it's a lot more of a story about humanity, and what that can mean on an extraterrestrial level. It's great. I love it. I'm a big fan of Disclosure Day. Spielberg has, hot take. This Steven Spielberg fella really knows how to make a film. It's really good. I'll be curious to how it does box office financially. But also at the same time, I don't necessarily care because I just think it's a really great film on its own. It's a film that I don't think we get much of, like these kinds of films, and I'm so glad that I was able to see it. It's fantastic. It's great. Big fan of Disclosure Day, and that's my thoughts on the film. What did you think of the film? Comment below and let me know what you think of Disclosure Day. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a share. Make sure you subscribe to Crazy Stupid Kino for any reviews if you like this. There's more reviews to come. There's already reviews and stuff on the channel, so give them a watch and get excited for the next video. A link is in the description below for the Crazy Stupid Kino Instagram page, as well as my own Instagram page and my Letterboxd. There's more videos to the side here. Until next time, guys, I shall see you later.